I believe it's on. Yeah, so making a video, tagline. Anticontavati did make a video called Value. I thought it would be more relevant to value, but it really wasn't. But anyway, so I'll respond to it. What the hell? He's on this determinism thing again, and uses terms like "we take control," which is just very funny. In the context of this discussion about what we are and how we function, again, which is the real subject of philosophy, and just acknowledging the fact that we are a byproduct of life experience, of acquiring knowledge of things. You can't be opposed to like slavery or something unless you can understand, oh, wait a minute, consciousness is in these other animals, they're just like me, you have empathy, blah, 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 you figure it out. You can't do the math until you do the math, until you learn the math. You learn 1 + 1, and you learn multiplication, you learn the concepts, and then you're able to decipher the problem of existence, or the problems that you're facing, and make the right decision in some sort of ethical framework or understanding of what the things at stake are and what your ability to change them is. All this crap. Well, anyway, getting back to the determinism thing, it is totally irrelevant. People use terms like, oh, we're just puppets. What a horrifying thought. You would be puppets of if there was some non-caused cause, some magical thing that affected your judgment besides your life experience, then you'd be a puppet of the magic. How is that any better? I don't know if I want to be God's puppet. Wait, is it God who's controlling me? Is God doing it? Or is it the devil? I don't think either one of them have any character. So why would I want to be controlled by either one of them? I don't want to be on their strings either. So anyway, it is just silly. Okay, you're a byproduct. You're a pinball machine that has been engineered by pinball machines. Okay, and by pinball machines and by pinball machines. Circumstances, billions of years, the universing, and this is what it has eddied into. This is the sediment in the sand of the stream, and it's arranged because of cause and effect. The question is that we're sitting here experiencing our life as a static, kinetic player. We can't see the future. We can't see how it all plays out. We can't see what the right moves would be ahead of time. We don't know what the other player is going to play in terms of the chessboard. So, yeah, we're sitting here saying, okay, it's deterministic. There's going to be an outcome. I just don't know it yet. Every time an ambulance shows up and picks somebody up, there's going to be an outcome, okay? It's going to drive down the road, and if there's an earthquake and the road disappears and it falls down the cliff, that's what's going to happen, all right? There's no changing the facts. They're just out there waiting to happen. A little bird could fall out of this tree, land on the ground here, and then I'd have a problem. I'd have something I have to make a decision about. And my brain will calculate based on its understanding of, what the values are, and it'll make a determination of what my behavior should be. And what we're doing in terms of arguing philosophy is I'm saying this is my understanding of the value, and the appropriate response of the human race is this. This is this is the cost-effective way to deal with the problem. We have this fire burning. This is how to put the fire out kind of argument. And that's all I can do is advocate for a position. I'll either succeed or fail. Others will succeed or fail in arguing their position. And there's going to be an outcome. But the point is you have to play your role. You have to read your script. Martin Luther King couldn't just sit back and say it's determined that there'll be a civil rights movement and the black people will acquire equal rights. You can't just sit back and say it and then go to the couch and eat potato chips and expect the world to change. No, because he's part of the change. He has to make the argument. He has to make the change in the sense that he has to read his script. He has to the the pinball machine has to keep running. And you can't just turn it off and expect the ball to do anything but fall down the chute. And that'll be the deterministic future. That'll be your failure. I mean, you can't win a war if you don't show up to fight it. It's not complicated. So it doesn't change anything about how we behave or how we act. And again, it's not, you don't just invent something, okay? It just doesn't happen that way. It has to already be in you. The pieces of it already have to be there. The recipe has to already be in the oven. You can't just pop something out and just say, I'm going to say something brilliant right now. No, I can't just say it. It somehow has to be formed. It has to be constructed inside my subconscious. It has to have the tools to make something brilliant. You can't just say it because I said so. I feel like I should say something brilliant now. There, I'm changing my destiny. No, I'm not doing that. What I just did was a product of the subconscious. Is the cause and effect. And all the argument is that as being the eddy swirls, my piece of the eddy is this piece that's going to argue for change. And it'll either successfully argue for change or it won't, as things turn out. It'll either make a compelling and interesting argument, it'll either be charismatic enough, or it won't. That's it. It'll either work or it won't work. And that's and on your brain, right? On your brain. Your brain will go, oh, well, that sort of makes sense. Yeah, I get that. That's agreeable. I'll ignore the fact that he's kind of an obnoxious asshole, and yeah, I'll think about that. And as you think about it, it'll do something inside of you, and you'll say, yeah, this is a thing worth fighting for, this idea of mitigating against the suffering. And it doesn't matter whether the world keeps dropping things like cancer. If I can pick up one piece of it and dispose of it, there's one less suffering in the world. Ah, brilliant. Okay, whether, we don't need to get into subjects about whether the universe is going to recycle and do the same shit all over again, over and over and over forever. Our decisions are right in front of us. We either can stop and pick up the bird, humanely kill it or whatever, or not. Or, we can either play a part, we can either be part of, or we're not part of. We're either, in the future will be written based on how many people choose to stop and do something. And if they just keep walking by and scratching their asses and saying, monkey, 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 well then, yeah, that's all you'll have is monkey behavior. And if some other monkey walks up and says, let's try to be better than monkeys. I mean, it was kind of funny that, Anna Konovad put in the description a quote from Nietzsche, and it really does say it all. I was perfectly accurate in my previous characterization. He basically says, what's the word he uses? Damn. I'm not going to remember the damn word. But he basically says idealism is not modernity, it's a horror. I mean, it's a bad thing. Idealism is the ultimate enemy. Because all this is about is this pragmatic struggle for survival, and that's all there is. So he's just basically declaring himself, just listen to the DNA molecule. It'll tell you what to do. Your mission is your biological mission. Your mission isn't to think of better. Thinking, idealizing, recognizing solutions, attempting to implement solutions. No, don't mess with that. Just be a monkey. So anyway, mendacity. Yeah, mendacity. That's what he calls idealism. A mendacity. Yeah. Which is just, where are you going with that? It's just entirely anti-intellectual. Entirely. Stop being an intelligence. Stop thinking. Stop analyzing. Stop attempting to mitigate against even one little harm. Even though it's right in front of you, just step over it. Because somehow, because the system is broken, you'll never be able to do anything. And it just ignores the basic truth that you can do something right there. That you can reduce the amount of suffering by one increment. That's an accomplishment. It's reason to stay in the game right there. So yeah, it's worth fighting for. And I'm certainly going to argue that we can prevent so much more than that. If we rewrite the future, if this eddy, if this section of the force through deterministic play is able to wind itself into the mind of man, if it wins the argument, yeah, I'm going to argue that, magnitudes of suffering will be prevented. Huge, monolithic, rotundities of suffering can be prevented. That there's a huge stake here, a gigantic stake, and it all hinges on the power of argument and persuasion. Just getting minds to reflect. Just take a little bit of time to reflect. Pose the questions that matter. Contemplate the questions hard. What are you? Are you living for the glory of your ego? Are you thinking for the glory of your ego? Are you thinking rationally? Can you understand the reason why you don't miss the Martians? Just recognize, just think about it for a minute. Why don't you lament the non-existence of the Martians? And it'll help you to understand that you are driven completely and entirely by an emotional ego that has controlled you, and that a simple thought, a simple realization liberates you from it. All you have to do is recognize that truth, and it goes away. The control is gone. You're entirely liberated from any kind of notion or need, any perception of lamenting, any kind of loss in terms of understanding that there's anything to be gained. You're liberated from it. And then you can see that, all there really is mitigating against the cost. Let's just stop pouring gas into it. Stop feeding it, and it'll stop eating your ass. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. People think that's a good thing. Anyway, it's all fed by an erroneous, arbitrary, nonsensically conformed, illusionary perception of purpose, of some place to go. And there's no place to go. There's no place we're getting. There's no reason to force Sisyphus to push the boulder up another time. It's time to just walk off and say, fuck that. It's stupid. Let it go. And it's just easy to let go once you realize what it's made out of. Once you realize that what you have in your hand, that you're perceiving it to be precious, and it's actually shit. If we went to another planet and we saw hideous, cruddy, slimy, alien drooling monsters, and they were shitting diamonds, then maybe you'd understand that you're playing with shit. What you think is precious is actually shit. Which gets to the value word of his video, like I said, which he didn't really talk about. And of course he just ends it with the same old nonsensical guilt phrases. But so all he's really advocating is go with the monkey mind. Go all the way back to being a reptile. Don't and just negate all the sensible, rational processing you're capable of in understanding inefficiencies and dysfunction and stupidity and retardedness. And ignore all that. That's idealism. that those critiques have no place in making you uber powerful at just being a trail walker, a boulder pusher. So if you can't envision a greater purpose than that for the human race, come on. I know you want better than that. You don't want that written in the book. It just pushed boulders. It couldn't do better than that. It was too stupid. It gave up on being a brain and decided to be nothing, just owned by the DNA molecule. So that's his response to determinism, which is ironic as hell. His response to determinism, the fear of being controlled, is to be entirely controlled by a mechanism that has absolutely no credibility or qualifications as anything other than stupid forces. This is so, it's brain acid. He's basically bottled brain acid, and he's sitting there peddling it on the internet. Drink your acid, drink your Nietzsche. Fuck being smart, fuck being observant, fuck being reasonably skeptical, especially skeptical of a DNA molecule. Do not pass judgment on the DNA molecule. It really is just the deification of a crude force. Like I said, that's in my opinion, it's more preposterous than the religious nuts. Placing a brain on an imaginary character is a lot better than, placing authority on a brainless character. Or credibility, whatever the right word would be. So anyway, I just don't think he understands determinism at all, and I certainly don't think he understands the fact that things aren't going to happen unless people make them happen. People still have to play their part in determinism. The future doesn't happen the way it could happen if people do certain things, and if people don't do certain things. There'll be different futures, and so you have to read your script. You have to play your part, and you play that based on things you understand or you don't understand. It either makes sense or it doesn't make sense. And I'm just pleading for you people not to think it makes sense to abdicate, to run from your power and responsibility, to play a role, to play the role, to be the starring player in the better outcome. Yeah. And such. And so forth and whatnot. So I think we're done. So anyway, till next time and such.